The Phantom Arsenal. When we think of global intelligence, we usually think about absolute certainty. However, analysts have documented an anomaly suggesting that the most powerful spy network on Earth can be completely blinded by a ghost. Using surveillance satellites and human informants to map the military capabilities of foreign nations, the CIA claimed to have discovered colossal, unimaginable stockpiles of weapons sitting deep within Iraq in 2002. They were called weapons of mass destruction, or WMDs. To understand their supposed scale, imagine a biological and nuclear threat capable of erasing entire cities off the map in minutes. The anomaly is that these weapons were completely fabricated. They were a phantom. The most disturbing theory is that this wasn't just a simple mistake, but a phenomenon called groupthink, a psychological glitch where highly trained analysts unconsciously validated each other's false assumptions. While the ensuing invasion reshaped the Middle East forever, the terrifying reality is that a multi-billion-dollar intelligence apparatus chased a ghost species of weaponry. To this day, the sheer scale of how the system failed so completely remains a deeply disturbing case study in human error. The indestructible target. For decades, the logic of covert operations seemed relatively straightforward. The agency identifies a threat, and eventually, the threat is neutralized. However, historical records have revealed a massive, almost impossible statistical anomaly regarding one specific man. When the CIA attempted to remove Fidel Castro from power during the Cold War, they encountered a target that simply refused to die. According to the data, this mysterious operational failure spanned across decades and involved an estimated 638 separate assassination attempts. The methods were incredibly bizarre. They tried exploding cigars, poisoned diving suits, and pens rigged with toxic syringes. The disturbing part is that absolutely none of it worked. Every single carefully calculated variable collapsed. We have no idea how one individual managed to survive the concentrated efforts of the world's most advanced intelligence agency for half a century. It was basically a biological and logistical glitch, an anomaly that defied all mathematical probability of success. The mind control anomaly. Between the 1950s and 1970s, a terrifying and completely unexplained psychological experiment swept through the agency, infecting its highest ranks. The project attacked the concept of free will, leaving victims in a state of altered consciousness. They were completely unaware of their involvement, trapped inside their own minds, manipulated by chemical compounds like LSD. It was called Project MK Ultra. The objective was to find a truth serum, or worse, a way to program human behavior like a biological machine. The disturbing anomaly is that we still do not know the true extent of the damage. In 1973, the director of the CIA ordered all MK Ultra files to be systematically destroyed. The physical paper trail required to process those memories and understand those experiments has literally been erased or burned away. We do not know for sure who all the victims were, how far the mind control techniques actually progressed, or most terrifyingly, if elements of that psychological research quietly woke up and happened again in modern interrogations. The ghost in the machine. Intelligence has a universal rule. The threat is supposed to be on the outside. You build a wall, you protect the secrets, and you keep the enemy out. However, sitting right in the center of the CIA's Soviet Counterintelligence Division was a man who had basically figured out how to dismantle the agency from the inside. It was Aldrich Ames, arguably the most devastating mole in American history. When a normal intelligence network faces a breach, it detects anomalies and plugs the leak. When the CIA faced Ames, they did something incredible. They completely missed him for 9 years. Ames simply walked out of the building with plastic bags full of highly classified documents and handed them to the KGB. His actions led to the compromise of roughly 100 intelligence operations and the execution of at least 10 covert sources. He completely reverted the CIA's Soviet network back to its infant stage. Genetically, the agency's security protocols were supposed to be flawless. But the exact psychological blind spot that allowed a mediocre, alcohol-dependent officer with sudden, unexplainable wealth to drive a brand-new Jaguar to work without triggering a single alarm remains a mystery. The unseen storm. When we think of national security, we usually think of a flawless protective dome. However, in 2001, the intelligence community detected a series of signals that they completely failed to connect. It was the lead-up to September 11th. Before the attack, the CIA had pieces of the puzzle. They had tracked known al-Qaeda operatives into the United States. They had intercepted communications. Yet, instead of a unified warning, the system was hit with a deafening blast of bureaucratic static. Scientists of intelligence call it the wall, an artificial barrier that prevented the CIA and the FBI from sharing crucial data with one another. It was a background noise of jurisdictional rivalry that was louder than the combined warning signals of the impending attack. To this day, analysts study this as the ultimate systemic failure. It doesn't match the signature of a single human error. It was an anomaly where the agency possessed all the necessary data points, but lacked the basic operational architecture to see the picture. The digital purge. This is an anomaly that happened right here in the modern era of cyber warfare. In a phenomenon known as the 2010 covert communications hack, the CIA deployed a secure web-based system for its spies to communicate with handlers in hostile territories like Iran and China. When the system was deployed, something crazy happened. It was fundamentally flawed. The websites the agency used were easily searchable by foreign intelligence using basic internet tools. For a fraction of a second in the grand timeline of espionage, the CIA's entire digital armor collapsed. A simple Google search created a massive, deadly inferno in the covert world. Dozens of assets were rapidly identified, captured, and executed by foreign governments. Despite decades of advanced technological study, cybersecurity experts are still baffled by how such an elementary mistake passed through the highest levels of approval. Some theories suggest the agency was blinded by overconfidence in an outdated architecture. But it still remains a baffling mystery how the most well-funded spy network on Earth was defeated by rudimentary search engine tactics. The ultimate blind spot. This is considered by many to be the scariest reality in geopolitics, and you'll soon understand why. The world is not just randomly scattered with predictable events. Global events group together in massive structures of cause and effect. However, history shows that the CIA frequently encounters a terrifying place in their predictive modeling, a spherical region of the future that is almost completely empty of foresight. Whether it was failing to predict the collapse of the Soviet Union, missing the sudden fall of the Shah in Iran, or failing to anticipate the rapid takeover of Afghanistan by the Taliban in 2021, the agency often stares into a massive void. Based on the average distribution of their budget and resources, a network that massive should contain thousands of perfectly accurate predictions. In these historical voids, they found almost zero. It is a dead zone so vast and so empty that it proves even hyper-advanced surveillance. Civilizations cannot always map the human element. While most experts believe this is simply because human behavior is inherently chaotic, it has spawned extreme theories. But the simple, chilling truth is that no matter how much data is collected, the future remains an anomaly that cannot be entirely solved.